Let me tell you about term sheet. In a typical transaction, when the lenders have a satisfactory loan structure, they prepare a term sheet and send it to the borrower. A term sheet is an advisory agreement that describes the basic terms and conditions of a loan. It usually serves as the basis for legally binding agreements signed by both parties. The purpose of a term sheet is to ensure that both the lender and the borrower agree to the structure and terms of the loan before beginning to draft more detailed loan agreements. Once the borrower and the lender have agreed on the contents of the term sheet, it is signed by both parties. If the pre-investment due diligence has already taken place by the time the term sheet is signed, the parties immediately contact lawyers and get to work on drafting the main agreements. If not, then the due diligence is conducted first, and then the draft agreements are drafted after the due diligence is completed. In either case, the next set of documents will be facility agreements. These are legally binding documents that outline the terms and conditions governing the loan. These agreements are drawn up by lawyers and signed by all parties. They are usually much longer and more detailed than a facility sheet and contain all the terms and conditions that were agreed upon by both parties before the financing schedule was signed. These agreements usually consist of a loan agreement, a security agreement, and a guarantee agreement. A loan agreement is a legally binding contract containing the terms and conditions of a loan. A security agreement refers to a document that provides a lender a security interest in a specified asset or property that is pledged as collateral. Terms and conditions are determined at the time the security agreement is drafted. Security agreements are a necessary part of the business world, as lenders would never extend credit to certain companies without them. In the event that the borrower defaults, the pledged collateral can be seized by the lender and sold. Businesses and people need money to run and fund their operations. There are rarely cases where entities can fund themselves, which is why they turn to banks and other investment sources for capital. Some lenders require more than just good word and interest payments. That's where security agreements come into play. These are important documents drafted between both parties at the time the loan is advanced. Security agreements often contain covenants that outline provisions for the advancement of funds, a repayment schedule, or insurance requirements. The borrower may also allow the lender to hold the collateral for the loan until repayment. Security agreements may also pertain to intangible property such as patents or receivables. A secured promissory note may include a security agreement as part of its terms. If a security agreement lists a business property as collateral, the lender might file a UCC-1 statement to serve as a lien on the property. The existence of a security agreement and a possible lien on that collateral could affect the borrower's ability to obtain more financing from other lenders. The property used to serve as collateral will be tied up with the terms of the first lender, which would mean that securing another loan against the same piece of property would lead to cross-collateralization. Guarantee agreement: a document signed by the guarantor, under which he undertakes to assume the debt, if the borrower fails to fulfill his obligations under the loan. Types of guarantors. There are many different scenarios in which a guarantor would need to be used. This ranges from assisting people with poor credit histories to simply assisting those without a high enough income. Guarantors also don't necessarily need to be liable for the entire monetary obligation in the guarantee. Below are different situations that would require a guarantor, as well as the type of guarantor in a specific guarantee. Advantages and disadvantages of guarantors. In an agreement with a guarantor, the advantages usually lie with the primary party in the contract, whereas the disadvantages usually lie with the guarantor. Having a guarantor means that the loan or agreement has a higher chance of being approved and much more quickly. Most likely, it can allow for borrowing more and receiving a better interest rate. The loans with guarantors tend to have higher interest rates. The disadvantages lie with the guarantor. If the person you are guaranteeing fails to pay their obligations, then you are on the hook for the amount. If you are not in the financial situation to make the payments, then you are still liable for the amount and your credit score will be negatively impacted and legal action may be taken against you. Also, if you guarantee a loan, then your ability to borrow additional money for something else is limited because you are tied to an existing obligation. Conclusions. The term sheet is an important element in any typical lender-borrower agreement.